At a party. With 30 people, my dad slapped me and my sister applauded. That night, I made a call that ruined them both. Now, they're begging. Hey, I'm Claire, 32, and I've learned the hard way that just because you're family doesn't mean there's loyalty. Sometimes the best payback is letting people deal with what they caused. So this all kicked off at a party that was supposed to be a happy gathering. My younger sis, Maris, just bought her first house with her hubby, Henry, and they were throwing a big housewarming shindig. Maris, who's 29, has always been the golden child. Got married young, had 2 kids by 25, and somehow convinced our parents she's perfect, even though she's made some epic financial blunders. Meanwhile, I'm seen as the family letdown, even though I've got a great job as a financial consultant, own my own place, and even snagged a sweet vacation spot in the mountains. But since I don't have kids, my folks, Gerald and Sophia, think my life is pointless. Doesn't matter if I'm totally happy with my dog, Finn, and doing my own thing. So I show up at the party with a nice bottle of wine and a gift card for Maris's new pad. There were about 30 people there, family, friends, neighbors. Maris seemed really happy to see me, gave me a big hug, and thanked me for coming. For a moment, I thought maybe things were getting better between us. I should have known better. About an hour in, Maris taps her wine glass to get everyone's attention. Thanks for coming, everyone, she says, with that fake sweetness I've come to know too well. Henry and I are so grateful for all your support as we start this new chapter. Then her tone shifts, and I get that sinking feeling. Actually, there's something else I want to bring up while we're all here. She looks right at me, and I feel my stomach drop. Claire, could you come over here for a minute? The crowd parts as I make my way over to Maris, with my parents right by her side. From the looks on their faces, I knew this wouldn't end well. Everyone around us quieted down, focused on what was about to unfold. Claire, Maris starts, loud enough for everyone to hear. You know how tight money's been for Henry and me, especially with the kids and our new mortgage? I nod, feeling uneasy. We've been talking as a family, she continues, gesturing to our parents. And we think it would be really generous of you to let us use your vacation cabin. You know, since you hardly go there, and it'd be amazing for us and the kids to make memories there. The way she said it, she made it sound like I'd already agreed, which I hadn't. This was the first I was hearing about it. Maris, I start, but Mom interjects with that smile that never reaches her eyes. We think you should just give it to Maris and Henry. It's the family thing to do. The room goes dead silent, and suddenly I feel like everyone is staring at me, waiting for my reaction. My face is burning with embarrassment and anger. You want me to give away my vacation home? I ask incredulously. It's not like you're using it for family, Dad chimes in with his authoritative tone that used to shut me down. Vacation homes are for families. You just go up there alone with that dog of yours. That dog has a name, I comment, my voice shaky with anger. And yes, I go there to relax and recharge. It's my property that I worked hard to get. Maris laughs, but it isn't a happy sound. Come on, Claire, don't be selfish. Think about my kids, your niece and nephew. They deserve those experiences. They can have experiences at any of the other vacation rentals out there, I say, trying to keep calm even though I'm fuming inside. I'm not giving away my property. Mom's facade slips completely. You don't even have kids, she snaps, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. What do you need a family vacation home for? Just keep doing your own thing with your dog and stop being so damn selfish. Her voice is cruel, and it stuns me. These are the people who are supposed to love and support me, but here they are humiliating me in front of everyone because I don't have kids. A decision that wasn't entirely mine, considering my years of infertility struggles, which they know about but don't seem to care. Dad steps forward, his face flushed with anger. Your sister has kids, real responsibilities. You're just a barren waste, taking up space and resources that could benefit actual family members. The word barren hits me like a punch to the gut. I've heard Dad say horrible things before, but never this publicly or aggressively. The crowd shuffles awkwardly, but nobody says anything to defend me. Maris is practically glowing with malicious joy. About time the family disappointment paid up, she sneers. Maybe this will finally make you useful for something. I stand there shaking with rage and shame as my own family tears into me in front of a whole party. Some people look away awkwardly, while others watch with morbid curiosity, but nobody stands up for me. No, I finally managed to say through gritted teeth. It's my property, and I'm not giving it away. That's when Dad completely loses it. His hand comes up fast, and he lands a harsh backhand on my cheek, sending me stumbling back. The sound of the slap echoes through the now silent room, and to my horror, people start clapping. Not everyone, some look shocked and uneasy, but enough people join in that the applause fills the room. Maris is beaming like she's just won an award, and Mom nods approvingly. Dad adjusts his shirt like he's you've done something important. I stand there pressing my hand to my burning cheek, staring at the people who were supposed to be my family. The betrayal cuts deeper than any physical pain could. Fine, I say, my voice eerily calm. I'll remember this. I walk out without saying another word, leaving behind the gift I brought and any remaining illusions of my family's unconditional love. The drive home is a blur. Finn greets me at the door with his usual enthusiasm, and I bury my face in his fur, finally letting the tears flow. My cheek is swollen, my heart aching, and I feel more alone than ever. But once the shock fades, something else starts to creep in. Cold, calculated anger. I've always been the responsible one in the family, while Maris has stumbled from one bad financial decision to another. I've quietly helped out too many times to count. I co-signed her first car loan when her credit was bad, lent her money for emergencies more times than I can remember, and even helped with the down payment on the house we were just celebrating. But she made me promise to keep it a secret. More importantly, I've been managing our parents' finances for the past 5 years because Dad asked me to when Mom started showing early signs of memory loss and he was struggling to keep everything organized. I've sorted their finances, set up their retirement accounts, handled their taxes, and made sure their bills were paid on time. Mom's condition has gotten worse over the years, but she still has good days, and she appreciates my help with their finances. They totally trust me with their money matters. Maris has no clue I'm involved, but here's the deal. As a financial advisor, I've learned that money is power, and power can be taken away just as easily as it's given. That night, I sit down at my kitchen table with my laptop and start making some calls. The first call is to the bank that holds Maris's mortgage, which I helped her qualify for by co-signing and covering part of the down payment. I tell the loan officer that, due to recent family issues involving financial abuse and threats, I'm concerned about my ongoing obligation as a co-signer and want to know my options. I understand your concerns, Miss Thompson, the officer replies. While you can't just remove yourself as a co-signer, you can formally request that we reevaluate the loan based on changed circumstances. Given what you're describing, we would need to reassess whether the primary borrowers can qualify for the loan on their own. And what happens if they can't re-qualify? I ask, thinking things through. We would work with them on modification options, but if no suitable arrangement can be... So I got a couple of pretty intense phone calls that day. First up, the loan. It might be called in, so I had to get that sorted. The next big call was me stepping down as the person in charge of my parents' finances. Power of attorney, you know. I'd been keeping track of everything for years, and let me tell you, what I found out was super troubling. Turns out, Dad had been secretly sending cash to Maris for ages. This was money that should have been used for Mom, especially with her memory getting worse. The loans he gave Maris never paid back, and they added up to over $30,000. Even worse, he was opening credit accounts using Mom's name without her knowing. A huge no-no, given her state. I knew I had to document everything, so I dug into bank statements, emails, the whole shebang. Legally, of course, since I was their financial agent before quitting. My third call was to Adult Protective Services. I reported what seemed like elder financial abuse. I gave them all the PQPs, roof, unauthorized transfers, proof of those sneaky credit applications, all of it. They took it seriously and said they'd start an investigation, and in the meantime, they needed to freeze the accounts to stop further damage. Then I phoned Maris's workplace. She was a bookkeeper at a small firm, and her boss, Ms. Benton, was big on financial honesty. A quick look at public records showed Maris had been hiding some financial messes, like unpaid debts. I didn't accuse her directly, but just casually asked Ms. Benton if she knew about these judgments against Maris, which might affect her trustworthiness in handling the company's finances. Next, I gave a heads up to the IRS. Those loans from Dad to Maris? Not being paid back makes them taxable income. If Maris didn't report these as income, it's considered tax evasion. I handed over all the evidence I had on these transactions, again legally obtained. Then came a call to Child Protective Services. Now, I'd never make up stories about child welfare, but Maris's social media had some alarming stuff. She'd post about leaving her kids alone or using meds to get them to sleep so she could have her own time. I just sent screenshots and asked for a wellness check. The last call went to Henry's boss. Henry worked construction, and his company couldn't stand for domestic abuse issues. Photos of my face after an incident at a party backed by witnesses were pretty clear on what was going down. I didn't accuse Henry directly, but laid out the facts and let his employer decide if he still fit their standards. Then I just waited. 3 days later, Maris rings me up, panicking. Turns out, without me as a co-signer, the bank wanted full repayment of a loan in 30 days or they'd start foreclosure. She begged me to reverse it, but I just told her she should have thought about things before trying to publicly humiliate me. And then Dad calls, all panicked, saying folks were inquisitive about Mom's accounts. I reminded him that as their financial agent, protecting Mom's interest was my job, and those were thefts from a vulnerable adult. The police were quite intrigued by his actions. Later, Maris lost her job because her boss found out about her hidden debt and some fishy bookkeeping. The IRS hit her hard for not declaring those forgiven loans, leading to some serious financial penalties. CPS found enough there to insist on parenting classes and regular check-ins. Henry also lost his job when his company decided his participation in domestic troubles was too risky. Things got even crazier when my cousin Nina, Maris's childhood buddy, called. She spilled the beans that the whole scene at Maris's party was a setup to pressure me into giving up my cabin. Maris was planning to use my history of helping her financially as evidence in court if public shaming didn't work. She thought that would convince a judge to force me into handing over the cabin. The nerve. When I asked Na why she was telling me all this now, she said Maris had called her, desperate and seeking help. What a whirlwind, right? So, Maris is thinking about suing you because she thinks you're purposely causing trouble for her family out of revenge, and not because she and your parents broke the law. I'm not entirely sure what her game plan is, but she's been snooping around, asking about your job, income, and where you hang out. Plus, she's trying to get mutual friends to pick sides, calling you a heartless monster who's supposedly out to ruin her kids' lives. This is typical Maris, always playing the victim and refusing to own up to her mess. But now that I know what's coming, I'm going to use this heads up to my advantage. I asked Nina to help out by recording any future chats with Maris. When I hung up with her, I dove into Maris's social media accounts. Jackpot! I found loads of incriminating stuff that painted a different story than the sad tale she was spinning. While she was whining about being broke to me and Mom and Dad, she was also posting about fancy dinners, new clothes, and fun getaways. The timing of these posts matched up with when she asked me for emergency cash loans. Clearly, she'd been bending the truth to get sympathy and money from the family. Even worse, she bragged about scamming people who are too rich for their own good and even shared texts mocking me for being so gullible. I took screenshots of everything and made a detailed file. Then, I did something I never thought I'd have the guts to do 6 months ago. I launched my own social media campaign. I posted a detailed account of what went down at Maris's party, complete with photos of my bruised face and testimonials from a few kind folks who witnessed the incident. I didn't need to exaggerate. The truth itself was shocking enough. I also shared Maris's own posts, flaunting her lavish lifestyle and mocking the people who tried to help her out. All of these were already public on her social accounts. I used Maris's own words to show everyone who she truly was. The post spread like wildfire among our friends, and the response was overwhelming. Tons of people shared their own stories about Maris's shady behavior, unpaid bills, and how she used family drama to get what she wanted. Some guests admitted they felt weird about the party, but didn't know what to do. What was even more significant was that Maris's current neighbors and Henry's former colleagues started talking about their experiences too. Apparently, she was borrowing money from neighbors, spinning tales about health issues and car troubles, claiming she owed money all over town, but lying about the reasons. This social media blow-up also created a public record of Maris's antics, making it hard for her to claim she was being defamed if she tried to sue me. Maris's own posts and history of manipulation were there for all to see. Just 3 days after my post, Maris barged into my workplace while I was meeting with a client. My assistant interrupted to let me know my sister was there, very upset. I saw Maris through the glass, pacing and gesturing wildly at my assistant. She looked even worse than at my house, disheveled, angry, and desperate. I apologized to my client and excused myself, muttering about a family emergency. The moment I stepped into the lobby, Maris started yelling about how I was wrecking her reputation with my online post. I calmly told her her reputation destroyed itself. I was just sharing the honest truth. She accused me of posting private chats, which is apparently illegal. I clarified that all the stuff I posted was already public on her social media. Her face turned red with anger, and she yelled that I was vindictive and everyone could now see it. I coolly pointed out that the comments on my post showed people believed my side. More and more folks had been reaching out to share their experiences with her behavior. Maris accused me of turning people against her. I didn't need to do that. Her actions did it all by themselves. That's when she made a big mistake. Maris pulled out her phone and started recording, maybe hoping to catch me saying something incriminating. "Say that again," she demanded, brandishing her phone. "Tell everyone how you tore apart an innocent family because you're some bitter, childless woman who can't stand others being happy." I smiled right at her camera. I said I stopped enabling financial abuse and reported criminal activities to the right authorities. Since she was recording, I wanted to make sure we got the facts straight. I pulled out my phone and started recording too. I asked her if she was denying the plan she and our parents had to push me into handing over my property. Then I asked if she was denying that Dad had been dipping into Mom's medical funds to give her money. "That was just helping family," she tried to argue. I asked if she was denying lying about her financial situation to borrow from everyone. "Everyone has struggles," she dodged. I reminded her of how she'd applauded when Dad assaulted me. Maris's face went pale. While she hoped to catch me slipping up, she ended up recording herself admitting guilt. "You can't prove any of that," she protested. "Actually, I can," I shot back, still recording. "I have bank records, social media posts, witness statements, and now this convo where you haven't denied a thing." Realizing she'd fallen into a trap, Maris stopped recording and tried to grab my phone. I backed away and loudly told her not to touch me, reminding everyone around that she'd already been part of one assault and I wasn't giving her another shot. That's when security showed up to escort her out. As they were leading her away, she made one last threat, promising to ruin me. I calmly replied that people already knew who she was, and that was the real problem. The building's security cameras had caught the whole lobby drama, and somehow the footage ended up on social media. Maris's aggressive behavior, her failure to deny anything, and her attempt to snag my phone painted a clear picture of who the real problem was. The fallout was swift and brutal. Maris's remaining friends distanced themselves, and even the few family members trying to stay neutral took a side. And it wasn't Maris's. Henry's parents, who had taken them in, started asking some tough questions about the woman their son married. But Maris wasn't done yet. A week later, my lawyer hit me with some news. "Claire, I've gotten some interesting mail," he said. "Your sister has lawyered up and they're threatening to sue you for defamation, intentional emotional distress, and something called tortious interference with family relationships." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. She's suing me for spilling the truth about her? Her lawyer sent a demand letter asking for cash damages and a public apology. They want me to stop digging into her finances too. As for their case, it's garbage, my lawyer said. Everything I've put out there is true and backed by my own documented experiences. Truth is the ultimate defense against claims of defamation. The emotional distress claim? They'd have a tough time proving that since they were the ones who launched a public smear campaign against me. And interference with family relationships isn't a real legal claim. You can't sue someone just because they exposed criminal behavior, even if it's family. My lawyer thought they were just trying to scare me into backing down. I told him they picked the wrong person to intimidate and instructed him to file a countersuit. Within 6 weeks, everything started falling apart for Maris and my family. She and Henry faced foreclosure, bankruptcy, tax liens, job losses, and even Child Protective Services getting involved. Dad was under investigation for elder abuse and fraud, with criminal charges looming. Mom was now in a professional care facility, and her finances were being sorted out. Even though we were safe, my mom was really upset about Dad's lies. As for me, I found myself chilling at my vacation cottage with Finn, sipping on some wine while watching the sunset over the mountains. I had also started hanging out with Luke, this cool guy I met from a hiking club. He found my independence exciting, not scary, which was pretty refreshing. Meanwhile, my phone was blowing up. Maris called me countless times, and so did Dad, plus other relatives who had just stood by during all the drama started reaching out, worried about keeping the family together. I blocked them all, except Mom. I stayed in touch with her and visited her regularly at her care facility. She was having more good days than bad, and on those good days she was grateful I protected her from Dad's scheming. Despite everything, Mom always believed in my strength, wishing she'd been brave enough to see the truth sooner. 3 months after everything went down, Maris showed up at my place looking completely worn out. She drove a beat-up Honda, which was a far cry from their old fancy cars. When she begged to talk, I flat out told her I had nothing to say. She tried to appeal to me by mentioning her kids, claiming they didn't deserve what was happening. I agreed they were innocent, which is why CPS stepped in to make sure they were in a safe space. She was frustrated about the parenting classes and how Henry couldn't find a job with his record. I reminded her that they lost everything the moment they decided to humiliate me publicly over something that wasn't theirs to begin with. She tried to brush it off as stress-induced words, but I couldn't let it slide. Not when Dad had hit me and she clapped. I told her she couldn't just downplay everything. She had planned that whole public disaster, calling me a disgrace and siding with Dad when he demeaned me. She wanted me to help now because facing the consequences was tough. When she asked what she could do to make it right, I told her nothing. She couldn't take back the shame or the hurt they caused, nor could she undo what had been done. She argued we were family, but I said that family doesn't treat each other like that. She begged. But I reminded her of her cruelty when she demanded my vacation home and insulted me in front of everyone. Seeing her break down crying was tough. A part of me felt for her. But I mainly remembered the sting on my cheek and the cheers of my humiliation. She apologized, but I could see she was mostly sorry because her life was falling apart. I shut the door on her, and later learned that Maris and Henry had to move in with his parents after losing their home. Dad eventually admitted to his crimes, and the family members who'd stood by were facing social backlash. Legal processes dragged on forever. The IRS probe alone took a year, elder abuse cases even longer, and Maris's financial mess was under scrutiny for 2 years. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I got a promotion, probably because I wasn't dealing with my family's financial crises anymore. My social life was way better now that I didn't have to spend every weekend on Maris's emergencies or Dad's awkward family gatherings. Finn and I enjoyed hiking and the peace of the cabin, and I was getting closer to Luke, who genuinely appreciated me for who I was. I finally understood the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. I'd been lonely surrounded by family who saw me only as a savior. Now, alone by choice, I had real friends, meaningful work, and a strong sense of self-worth. People often ask if I feel bad for how things turned. Net out. Honestly, no. It's sad it had to come to this, realizing my loved ones weren't who I thought they were. But guilty? Never. They made their choices that night at Maris's party. They chose cruelty over kindness. They opted for public humiliation instead of a private talk. They picked violence instead of respect, seeing me as an ATM rather than family. So I stopped pretending their behavior was okay. Last I heard, Maris was working retail and struggling financially. Dad's legal woes were ongoing, affecting his health, and the family members who condoned their actions were dealing with social fallout. As for me, I'm back here at my vacation cottage with Finn curled at my feet and a now cold cup of coffee beside me. Luke's joining me later this weekend, and we're off to check out a waterfall I've been dying to show him. My life isn't flawless, but it's genuinely mine, filled with real connections and people who value me for me, not what I can offer. And that vacation cabin everyone was after. It's become what it was meant to be, a peaceful haven for me and those I care about. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting back at someone. It's about removing yourself from the situation and letting people deal with the natural consequences of their actions. It's about building a life so much better than before, Realizing those who hurt you did you a favor by revealing their true colors. The best revenge? Just living well, and I'm doing just that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy hearing stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.